Hey everyone, welcome back to more Flesh and Bad. And today we're going to be talking about Red Lure Harpoon. So this is probably one of the most interesting Marlin cards, and I'm excited to get to talk about it. This is going to be a little bit different from, I guess, our normal videos where I'm doing like gameplay and stuff. I'm sure we'll do gameplay with this card at a later point, but I kind of just want to give my initial thoughts on the card and kind of just talk about all the cool interactions this card creates. So the design philosophy of this card is actually really interesting. It's kind of similar to Shallow Water Shark Harpoon, where there's not the Go Fish keyword on the card, right? You're just basically checking the other kind of harpoon condition where it's like if you've activated a can this turn, do a specific thing. But the effect on this card is really cool. So I'm going to read it real quick. So when this hits a hero, banish a red action card from the graveyard. You may play it until the end of your next turn. So like the immediate kind of interaction that comes to mind is with like leave no witnesses, right? So theoretically, if you have like a way to like give Red Lure Harpoon go again, either through like Sea Lace Sarong or by getting like a Gold Kiss Rum or something, basically you can do like Red Lure Harpoon, banish a leave no from your opponent's graveyard, and then like finish on a leave no, which is like basically turning this into like a 3-card 12 with like 2 mildly disruptive or like 1 minorly disruptive on hit, but then a majorly disruptive on hit on the back, right? So 3-card 12 is like basically on rate, and it's a blue 3 block, so that's really, really impressive. Now, obviously, that's like kind of like the ideal scenario is you get like one of the best cards in your opponent's deck and you play it out against them. But like, I think that on average, this card is going to be like very, very strong, but maybe just not like the strongest into decks where you need that disruption, right? Like Redfin Harpoon into like Dash IO or like King Shark into like a guardian, right? Like you're basically not going to be disrupting your opponent with this. It's going to be like a small graveyard disruption, kind of like we see with like some of like the assassin graveyard hate. And then it's going to chain into maybe playing your opponent's disruption against them. So the card's actually really hard to evaluate because it depends a lot on like what your opponent is doing, right? So it's a little bit like more kind of like meta dependent, like when you actually kind of want to run this card. But I think it's like generically good enough as just a blue 3 block that you probably want to just include it in your main deck. And I think the best card to maybe compare this to is actually like Infiltrate. So Infiltrate is like an assassin card where it banishes top card of your opponent's deck. You can play it until I think the end of your next turn or something like that, right? So Infiltrate is like a random banish off the top. Now, Red Lure Harpoon is like a much better banish effect because you get to basically choose the card out of your opponent's graveyard. So like if your opponent has a CNC in graveyard, you can play your opponent's CNC. So you basically get to choose the best card out of your opponent's graveyard, like take it, and then potentially use them against them. Notably, you can also just like leave the card in banish. So if you have like a leave no witness that you can't like play, then you can just like kind of leave it in the banish zone, and your opponent's not going to get it back. So let's kind of walk through, I guess, some of the common or like I guess like the best applications for this card. So I already mentioned leave no witnesses, but you can also hit CNC, Conquer the High Seas, and E-Strike is also actually like a really insane one because you can do like E-Strike go again, bottoming like a Goldfin Harpoon into just like some other random disruption, right? So you're basically getting like a 0 for 5 go again that you don't really need to set up, which is really cool. It also really works well with like random head jabs. So like the ones that I kind of wrote down are like Hunder Winds, Ronin Renegade, Burn Up Shock. Burn Up Shock we're actually going to touch on in a second. Soup Up, if you like crack a gold, also gets the go again, which is really cool. And then Sprout Strength, which will like help you buff your harpoons, which is also really nice. So notably with these split cards from Rosetta, like Burn Up Shock or like Arcane Seed's Life, if you banish one of them with this card, you can basically play either the instant half of it, so like life or shock if you need to like just kill your opponent for like 1 damage. But you can also do like the full meld mode if you like want to do like a burn up shock, so you get like the extra +4 on hit, which is really sweet. This also kind of works well with just random 0 for 4s. So like Fang, for instance, is a deck that doesn't run a lot of like cards that this is like really applicable for, but they do sometimes run Blaze Headlong. So like if you hit your opponent's Blaze Headlong, somehow find a way to like generate an extra action point, maybe through like a Gold Kiss Rum or using your Sarong or something. Then you can cash in the Red Lure Harpoon for basically an extra +4 at the end of a chain link. It also really works well. I mentioned Blaze Headlong. It also really works well with like contract cards in Huntsman. So that actually probably makes the Huntsman matchup a little bit better because you get to like play their contract cards against them, which is really cool. Also works really well against like Kiss of Death, just being like a 0 for 4, and then like Mark of the Black Widow, just like any like random chain enders. Like even if the on hit's not live, you basically will still get the like 3 or 4 value, which is sweet. So if Red Lure Harpoon is basically getting you like 3 to 4 value, that's on the on hit. That's actually like a pretty sweet deal overall. There are a couple like other kind of weirder applications for Red Lure Harpoon. So you can also play your opponent's like big attacks like Swing Big, Spinal Crush, Boulder Drop, like the kind of like big red Guardian cards, like the ones from Mastery Pet Guardian and stuff like that. Those you probably have to like take like a turn to like block out and then set up and like pitch like 2 blues to send like Thunderquake or whatever. But it also really works well on like red arcane spells, which you might actually end up seeing a lot coming into the new set. So like if one of the new Cilios ends up being good, we could banish like Comet Storm Shock, Turn to Mindfire, some of those other kind of like bigger spells. But notably, we do still have to find like the go again to actually kind of use those. This card also makes the Marlin Mirror kind of hilarious because the kind of biggest hits in the Marlin Mirror are just like Cheating Scoundrels and Three of a Kinds. Notably, this doesn't work on arrow attacks because basically you can't play arrows out of banish. But if you hit your opponent's like 3 oak, that can just be like outright game winning, which is kind of insane. And there are a couple other like funny niche cards that we won't get into too much, like Cull. Notably, one thing about Cull is that you cannot play it as an instant. I think if an opponent loses life on your turn, I don't think you can play it as an instant because of the ways the rules work. I got like a minor judge explanation that kind of went a little bit over my head, but I'm sure Tegan will probably put it on the screen or whatever. And it also works with cards like Meat Madness, which is kind of funny, Reckless Stampede, Jaws of Victory, which I guess ensures that the tough matchup is maybe 100-0 still. And then like some random other niche cards like Censor, Pulverize, Icequake. So I think this card has like a lot of really cool applications. And obviously with the new set, maybe we'll see more reds printed that are kind of like applicable with it. The one kind of like downside or I guess like weakness of this card is that against like warriors or like weapon focused decks or like these like kind of like mechanic centric decks, like the effect is not going to be as good basically. So like for like Saber Bloodshed or any of like the dagger buffs or like the warrior like sword buffs like Brimming Blade or like Sharpened Steel, this card won't really work really well against that because we obviously don't have like a weapon, or we have a weapon but we don't have a sword notably. And I think the biggest or like the coolest part about this card is that it just encourages these really weird play patterns. So like for instance, you can basically think of this card in like 2 different ways. Basically, you either have to block out and then send whatever the red attack debanishes. So like for instance, if you have like a card like a hand that's like all blue 3 blocks or something, right? And you block 9 on like your opponent's attack or whatever, and then you just like play their CNC out of banish and just take it off turn. That's like a really good application of the card. You can also kind of use it to like if you have this card with go again, so you could like do Red Lure Harpoon, banish a card, and then maybe on the next turn you have like a Gold Kiss Rum and you give something go again, and then you like finish on a CNC. There are a lot of really fun applications to this card, which I think makes it like I think it's very, very niche in the sense that you're not going to be able to get the value out of it every game. But like the games where you do get value, I think that this is like a very fun card and kind of like thematic to Pirate, right? Where you're trying to like steal your opponent's cards and like kind of use them against them, which is kind of cool. So this card I think is going to definitely warp the Marlin deck. So if you'll remember from some, I guess, my past videos, the Marlin deck basically had like 3 to 5 kind of blue slots where the blues were kind of just mid and they were just kind of filler. So I basically think that this card is going to slot right into those slots because it's obviously a Harpoon, which is going to up the consistency of the deck. So you're not going to have those hands where you're like just bricking on no harpoons or whatever. But you are going to have to like include some more like setup pieces to kind of get like the real value out of this card. So like it's probably going to be mandatory to run at least like 2 to 3 tip the bar keeps just to have some rum generation to maybe get the value out of this card in the late game. Notably, this card also really works really well with Sarong. So like you maybe have to like change the play patterns of your deck to kind of like accommodate arsenaling like blue arrows, so that you can like, or arsenaling like Red Lure Harpoon, so that you can like give it go again with Sarong and like maybe hold on to Sarong a little bit longer, and then like give it go again into like a random attack or whatever. So a lot of really cool applications of this card. I think it's actually going to change like the Marlin playstyle definitely a little bit because you might want to be incentivized to keep your Sarong around for longer. And the deck composition I think will also have to change. Basically, you're going to need to like maybe find a way to include a couple tip the bar keeps in your deck to actually get like the real value out of this card. But anyways, the Red Lure Harpoon situation is crazy right now. So if you have any other kind of like applications or thoughts on the card, let me know in the comments, and I will probably add these to my like mental library of cards that I think I can banish with Red Lure Harpoon. But this card is going to be really sweet. I think it's going to actually encourage a lot of like creative deck building and also just like creative kind of like gameplay decisions. So looking forward to playing with this card whenever they decide to code it. And I think this card is like definitely, I don't know if it's like the best Marlin card ever, but I think it's like definitely main deck inclusion, which is really, really sweet. So anyways, thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see y'all next time. And a special thank you to all the folks who decided it would be a good idea to give us $2 on Patreon. We really appreciate the support, but it's obviously never required.